Hi, this video is the walkthrough solution video to the predicted paper 1 for the November Resit. So it's the non-calculator paper. I would recommend that you use the link below to download the paper, print it, sit down quietly, do it under test conditions, and then come back to the video so that you can check for your answers and watch through any solutions that you need to. I've tried really hard to help identify the keywords in questions and give you top tips on the way that you might approach your methods. So there's a lot of useful information contained within. There won't sadly be a paper 2 prediction. It's impossible. The turnaround is just too tight. So what I would recommend that you do for that is, again, it's in the description below, use the video that I created on the top 15 types of questions that are tested at Calculator. So they are super common, and to focus your revision there would be really, really useful. Paper 3, yes, I am very much hoping to pull something together for you for paper 3. I will have been able to see what has gone on paper 1 and paper 2, which means paper 3 will have just the topics that are most common and left to test. So it will be a really, really valuable resource. As far as grade boundaries go, I haven't given grade boundaries to the predicted paper. The reason for this is because we just don't know what the grade boundaries are, and I don't want to mislead anybody. That said, if you are consistently targeting late 40s, let's say about 48 to 50, we've never seen them that high. So if you are consistently getting that, you should be getting that grade 4 secured. For the 5, you're looking at 58 to 60. So about 10 more marks, which across 3 papers is only 3 marks a paper. So this is really doable, okay? But anyway, if you're thinking about trying to get that grade 5, I would just consistently try and get 60s across your papers, and you should do it. Okay, so good luck in your GCSEs. I do hope that the resources that we have created and that we will continue to create are helping. If they are, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in our future videos. Okay, so our first question is 220 take away 78. 0 take 8 we can't do, so we're going to take 1. Now we've got 10 take 8, which is 2. And then I'm going to see this as 21 take 7, which is 14. So 142. Write down the mode. Mode means most common. 6 comes up more than any other. So 6 is the answer. Write 9 over 50 as a percentage. Percentage means out of 100. So I just need to get the 50 to become 100. I'll times by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. And I've got 18 out of 100, so 18%. T times T times T is T cubed with a little 3. This was one that people can commonly get wrong and put 3 in front of. If you did that, that's what you do for T plus T plus T, which obviously we don't want to do here. Square root of 36, that means something times something, the same something equals 36, and the answer is 6. Okay, the mathematical name of this polygon. The polygon has got 5 sides, so it is a pentagon. Write down the number of edges for this mathematical shape. Now be careful here. It's not just the edges you can see, but the edges that you can't see that you have to think about as well. So we've got 4 on this end, we've got 4 on this end, and we've got 4 through the middle, which gives a total of 12. The probability that Dean arrives to work on time is 0.92. Work out the probability that Dean arrives late. What we're being tested here is that we know probability adds to 1. So 1 take away 0.92 is the maths. Best way to think about this is it's a pound, take away 92 pence. So you've got 8 pence left, 0.08. Okay, so Elsie's recorded the favourite subjects of each of her students in class, and we've got the information in the table. We're being asked to draw a suitable diagram for this information. So we're going to be drawing a bar chart for this information. We have our frequency here clearly labelled. We've got each individual bar clearly labelled. And we've got our equal width, which is really, really important. You don't need to be worrying about gaps. And then just making sure you've got those heights in the right places. Use a ruler, make it really clear, crisp, and easy for your examiner to read. Okay, so basically we want to work out how many bottles we can buy with £20. Various different ways to do this. The way that I'm going to do it, though, is I'm going to consider the cost of my bottle, which is £1.50, and the fact that only one bottle. And then I'm just going to build it up. So I'm going to double it to start off with. £3 will get me 2 bottles. And then I'm going to chunk as quickly as I can to get to that 20. So if I times by 6, that is going to get me to £18 spent. And times by 6, and I've got 12 bottles so far. So I've got £2 left. That's enough to buy one more bottle. So I might just show it so my examiner can see exactly how I came up with my answer. And my answer is 13. So we've been given information about counters in a bag. We're being asked to write down the probability that this counter is red. Now, probability is always a fraction. Unless the question is given as a decimal, then it's going to be a fraction. It's whatever they're talking about at the top. Well, they're talking about red counters, so that's 8 on the top. And on the bottom is the total. Now, the total is all the counters that are there. So you add those together and show that that's your method mark. And then that would be your final answer. Okay, so this question is asking us to draw an enlargement with a scale factor of 3. That means that all the edges are going to be 3 times bigger. So this has got 4. If I times that by 3, I'll get 12. So 12 will be the base of my new triangle. Do the same over here. I've got 3, times it by 3, and I've got 9. So I will have a height of 9. The next part of this question is asking us to work out the difference in the area. So area is my keyword. It's area of a triangle, which is base times height divided by 2. And I've got to work out the difference between the two areas. So my original was a 4 for the base times 3 for the height, which is 12. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. For the enlargement, I had 12 for my base and 9 for my height. 12 nines are 108. Divide that through by your 2, and you've got 54. Remember, I'm looking to find the difference. So 54, take away 6 is our final answer of 48. Okay, question 12. Max makes 140 cupcakes for his school fete in 3 different flavours. 3/7 of the cupcakes are vanilla. So we want to do 3/7 of 140. Now we divide by the bottom, times by the top. So 140 divided by 7. 7s into 14 go 2, so it's 20. And then 20 times 3 is 60. So we've got 60 vanilla. Okay. 20% are lemon. Now, 10%, we only have to divide through by 10 to find 10%. So 140 divided by 10 is 14. We double that to get 20%. So 28 are lemon. We're trying to work out how many cupcakes are chocolate. So we're going to add what we know, which is our vanilla and our lemon. That will give us 88. And then if we take that from our total, we will get our chocolate. So the answer is 52. Okay, the next question. Rob drives from his home in Bristol to Birmingham at an average speed of 48 miles per hour. So speed is a key word here. He drives for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we've got to work out the distance. So this is a speed, distance, time question, and you can pop your triangle down and work using that. However, on this particular question, it's probably easier to just build it up a bit like a proportional question. So I know that I can travel 48 miles in 1 hour because that's what it tells me here. I'm traveling for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So if I double my miles and my hours, I've traveled 96 in 2 hours. Now, all I really need to do is think about that 15 minutes. 15 minutes is quarter of an hour. I can do 48 miles in an hour, so I want to do a quarter of the 48. And again, we'll just divide by the bottom times by the top. So 48 divided by 4 is 12. There's no need to times 12 by the 1 as it won't change it. So we're going to add that onto our 96. And we get our final answer of 108. Now, Rob is taking the exact same route home. That means that his distance will be exactly the same. So we know that the distance is going to be 108, what we've just worked out. He's leaving Birmingham at 11:30 and drives at an average speed of 54 this time. So our speed has changed. And they want us to work out what time he arrives home. So we've got our distance, speed, time formula triangle. The distance, 108, divided by the speed of 54 is going to equal the time it takes. Now, hopefully you can spot that 108 is double 54. So it's actually just 2 hours. You could start cancelling that fraction if you needed to get it into more simpler numbers, lower, smaller numbers, so it's easier to see what's happening. So if he's leaving 11:30, 12:30, 1:30 is his arrival time. But you do need to be careful. That cannot be your final answer. If you're going to write 1:30, you must remember it's in the afternoon now and pop your PM. Or alternatively, you can write it in your 24-hour clock. But be very careful of those time questions when they cross from morning to afternoon or from night into the early hours. Okay, so Amir is making crispy cakes. We have a recipe that makes 12. He's got the ingredients already in his cupboard and he's got a certain amount of each. And we're being asked to work out the greatest number that he can make. We have to do every single ingredient in turn if we're going to work this out. So there's no shortcuts, unfortunately. So let's consider the first one. We've got our Mars bars. So we've got the Mars bars. I know from the recipe that 200 is making me 12. I know from the information that he has 1,000 grams worth of Mars bars. Now, to get from 200 to 1,000, I just need to times by 5. So I'm going to do the same here. And that tells me we've got enough Mars bars to make 60. Now we need to check the others. So let's look at our Rice Krispies. We know from the recipe that 90 grams will make 12. We're being told he's got 500. Now I'm just going to think about the 9 times table and get as close as I can to that 500. So 9 times, and it's 5 again, will get me to 450. So I'll just do the same on this side. So it's clearly communicated. At the moment, I've got 60. I do have some left over. I've got 50 left over, which would help me make more crispy cakes. Only I don't have enough Mars bars to make more. So even though I have enough to make more for Rice Krispies, I can't. And 60 is my maximum. Now I'm going to check my butter. I'm told that 60 grams will make 12 and that I have 210. So I'm going to take the same concept and I'm going to think about getting as close as I can to that 210. So using the 6 times table, if I times by 3, I will get to 18. Add my 0 and I'm at 180. So I'm quite close. If I times by 3 on this side, I'm at 36. So the butter is the limiting factor in this question. I'm not going to be getting 60 out of the butter, but I have got to get as many as I can. So I do need to consider what's left over. So I've got 210. I've used 180 to make 36, which means I have 30 left over. Now, 30 is half of my 60. So 30 grams is going to make me half the quantity, which is 6. If I add the 36 and the 6 together, I will get 42. So the total that the butter can make is 42. It doesn't matter that I have enough to make 60 in the other ingredients. Butter limits it all to 42 as my maximum. So 42 is the answer. Okay, so when we expand brackets, we multiply them out. So 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times d is 3d. Factorizing is doing the opposite, and it's putting the brackets back in. So we are looking for the highest common factor, the highest times table that goes into both those numbers, which is 6. So 6 is coming on the outside. 6 times y makes me my 6y. And 6 times 4 makes me my 24. And I've got a take between them. So it's 6 bracket y minus 4. For this one, we have to solve the equation. We have to get x on its own. So I'm going to hop my 6. It will land as -6. So I'm taking away 6 from both sides in effect. And that gives me 32. And then I'm going to move the 4, divide through, and x is equal to 8. Okay, so we're being told that ABC is an isosceles triangle. And we can see the marks on the edges to confirm that. The sizes of the angles in degrees are given to us in algebra. And we've got 2 different variables, which can be incredibly off-putting. We're being expected to use the information to work out the value of y. Now, the first thing we want to do is concentrate on this isosceles and what that means. It means that 2 of the angles are the same. So which 2 are the same? If you run your fingers up and down the edges that are marked, you will come to one angle on its own, and then you'll come out to 2 angles. And it's these 2 angles that are the same. So currently, I know that y equals 3x plus 38. So I could be labeling this angle 3x plus 38 because they mean the same thing. And if I do that, it enables me to get rid of the y just for the moment. I can't really work out or get to a solution when I've got 2 letters. So my main goal here is to get to 1 letter only. That'll help me find the value of that letter, and then I can go on and finish the question. So I've got 3x plus 38, another 3x plus 38, and 2x. Those are all the angles inside my isosceles triangle. If I add all the x's together, I get 8x. And if I add my numbers, I get 76. So all the angles added together give 8x plus 76. I also know that the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So this must equal 180. I've now created an equation, which I'm going to go on and solve. So we're going to take off the 76, and you'll do that using column method, or you might be able to see that and do it in your head. I've then got to divide through by 8. Now that one isn't quite so easy to do in my head, so we're going to use our bus shelter. 8s into 1 don't go. 8s into 10 go 1, remainder 2. 8s into 24 go 3. So x is equal to 13. Obviously, it's not x they're asking for, it's y, but I need x to be able to find y. If we go back up to what we first wrote down here, y has the same value as 3x plus 38. And I now know that x is 13. So y is going to equal 3 times 13 plus 38. 3 13s are 39. And 39 plus 38 is 77. So the final answer is 77 degrees. Okay, so for this question, we're going to completely ignore the decimals, and we're going to do 124 times 7. Now, there's various ways of doing this. I've just chosen this particular one on this occasion. 7 4s are 28, carry the 2. 7 2s are 14, plus the 2 is 16, carry the 1. And 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So we've got the digits 8, 6, 8. Now, what I want to do is get these in the correct place. 124, what I used in my calculation, is actually divided by 10. So I'm going to come in one place to show that divide by 10. But my 0.7 does the same thing, comes in one place where it gets divided by 10. So my final answer is 8.68. For this question, I'm not going to ignore the decimals. I'm going to deal with the fact that they want me to divide by a decimal by getting rid of it by timesing it out. Now, I'm going to need to times by 100 to move that 8 2 place values into the units column for 8. But I must also do the same to keep the balance, to keep my equation equivalent. So 6.4 times 100 is 640. And now I'm dividing that by 8. I can go into the bus shelter. You might be able to see this one. 8s into 6 don't go. 8s into 64 go 8. Bring up the 0. And our final answer is 80. Now, lots of students want to start readjusting because we made that adjustment at the beginning. You do not need to. We've written an equivalent question, which means its answer will be the same. Okay, so Claire is buying an antique vase. She sells it for a profit, and we have to work out her profit as a percentage. Now, if you're ever being asked to represent your answer as a percentage, you need a fraction first. It's such an important piece of knowledge, that, because we're often asked to represent something as a percentage. So always think fraction first when you read that type of thing. So we need to know the profit, which is 32. Our fraction is coming from the profit over the original cost. And then to change it into a percentage, we times by 100. Now, 32 times 100 is 3,200. We can divide through by 10. And then 8s into 32 go 4 and keep the 0. So our answer is 40%. Okay, so for the first part of this question, we need to write 600 as a product of prime factors. So we are going to split it into two numbers that multiply to make 600. And of course, you may split it in a completely different way. I'm going to start by doing 6 and 100. And then I've got 2 and 3 that multiply to make the 6. They're both prime numbers. And then I've got 2 and 50, 5 and 10. And then I've got 2 and 5. That's the prime factors. Now I need to write them as a product of prime factors. Product means times. So I'm going to be putting a times sign between. So I've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 5. That is absolutely fine and can be given in that way, and you will get full marks. You could tidy it up to give you 2 to the 4 times 3 times 5 to the 2. If the question said write it as a powers, give your answer in powers, then this would not be okay. You'd must use the power version of this. But for this question, it didn't matter. All right, the second part is using our answer from the first part and asking us to find the lowest common multiple with 80. We're going to repeat the process and get the factors for 80. So that gives us 4 2s and a 5. And then we're going to pop the information into a Venn diagram. From the previous question, we had 4 2s, a 3, and 2 5s. So all of the 2s can pair up and go into the middle. One of the 5s can. And then we've got 3 and 5 in this section here. The lowest common multiple is all the numbers across the 3 regions, although we don't have any in that one for this question, but it wouldn't be everything in the diagram multiplied together. And we don't have a calculator, so we've got to do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 5. So I'm going to show you the easiest way to do this, and it's to save the 2s to last, because timesing by 2 is just doubling. So that's usually the easier to manage. So we've got 5 times 5, which is 25. We've got to then times that by 3, which is 75. Double it, 150. Double it, 300. Double it again, 600. Double it again, and you've got your final answer of 1,200. So whilst that felt a bit daunting, it wasn't too bad in the end. Okay, so we're being asked to complete the Venn diagram. The first thing to do is to list out any numbers that you haven't been given, and we haven't been given really anything, just information. We are using the even numbers between and including 10 and 30. So let's list those out to start off with. We're also being told that it's going to be the multiples of 4. Now, we don't want the whole 4 times table, just the ones that lie between that 10 and 30, and then the multiples of 3. Now, I personally think it's easier to just list them all out between those numbers. So we've got 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, and 30. But we must remember, if you do that, we've only got even numbers. So all these odd ones, I can just scribble straight out. So you can either include them and get rid of them, or just don't write them down at all. Now I can see the numbers that are going into my diagram. It's going to be a lot easier. So 12 can go in the middle. 24 can go in the middle. I've then got 16, 20, and 28. That's all of A done. I've got 18 and 30, which is all of B done. Now, the reason for listing these out is so that at this stage, where we've already got some numbers in, we can cross those numbers off to see what we've got left. So we've got 10, 14, 22, and 26 left, and those numbers need to go on the outside. And that's the Venn diagram done. Okay, so I'm being pretty mean on this question because it's a type of question that we haven't seen before. But one of the things that we need to get used to is seeing questions that you've never seen before. So I threw this one in just to really get ourselves thinking deeper about our fractions. We know fractions is going to be there. It's always tested on non-calculator papers. So yeah, this might feel a bit mean, and yes, I guess it is, but I think it's a really, really valuable question. Now, it's got 2 operations. a subtract, and a multiplication. So I have to use BIDMAS. If I've got more than one operation, I use BIDMAS, and multiply comes before subtract. So that's my starting point on this question. I've got 1.5, which is a mixed number. I can't work in mixed numbers for my fraction methods. They've got to be fractions. So we'll change that. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I've got 3 over 2 times 3 over 5. The method is to just do it, which gives me 9 over 10. I have got my 2 3/4, and I'm going to be taking away 9 over 10. Again, I can't have the mixed number because I need my methods to be in fractions. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11. And that is my calculation. Now, there's lots of different ways to do add and subtract. I really love the smashed window. So we've got to multiply in. The number in this corner is my denominator. And then the 2 left, I have to find the difference of. So my numerator is 74. Now I've got to give my answer as a mixed number in its simplest form. So how many 40s can I get into 74? I can get 1 with 34 over 40 left. I haven't finished because these are both even, which means I know that there's going to be some cancelling. Half of 34 is 17. Half of 40 is 20. I also know 17 is a prime number. As soon as you've got a prime number and a fraction, you know that there is not any more cancelling. And that is our final answer. Okay, so Rosie records the number of texts she sends over 7 days. For the first 2 days, her mean number of texts is 25. So there is a total number of texts that she's added together for the 2 days, divided it through by 2 to get a mean result of 25. That is what that sentence is saying to me. And the second line is doing the exact same thing. There was a total over those 5 days. When it got divided by 5, it gave a result of 32. I'm being asked to work out the mean number of texts for the full week, for the 7 days. I'm going to need those totals so that I can then divide through by the 7 and get an average for every day. In order to do this, I am going to take the first one that I wrote out here, total divided by 2 equals 25. Get rid of the divide by 2 by moving it across, landing as times by 2. And my total for the first 2 days is 50. Same process, times through by 5, and you get 160. I need to add those 2 to get my total number for the week. So 160 plus 50 is 210. You divide that through by the 7, and you get 30 texts on average a day. Okay, so Aaron, Bobby, and Charlie are sharing money in the ratio of 2 to 5 to 8. We don't know how much. That's actually the problem. But we are told that the difference between the largest share and the smallest is 108. First thing I want to do is get this coded up. So we've got Aaron, Bobby, and Charlie in the ratio of 2 to 5 to 8. Now, the difference between the largest and the smallest is 6. So into my invisible column, I'm going to put the difference of 6. The difference in the question, however, is 108. So I need to work out what I times 6 by to get to 108. So my trusty bus shelter will do this. So it's times by 18. That means all of the ratios need to times by 18. So double 18 is 32. And then we need to do 18 times 5 and 18 times 8. Obviously, your method may differ to mine. So we've got 90 for B and 144 for C. If you quite like the way I did this, it really only works when you're multiplying by a single digit. So just be mindful that wouldn't work just all the time. We're being asked to find out how much they shared. So 32 plus 90 plus 144 gives us 276. So £276 on the dotted line. Okay, so we've got a big question here, and there's a lot of information. So we really need to digest everything that we're looking at. We're being told that we have a prism, and the cross-section of the prism is a trapezium. So that's a key word. Prism has a mass and a density. So that's alluding to mass, density, volume. And we're being asked to find the height of the prism. Now, the height of the prism is in the trapezium and is part of the cross section. So that cross section is also key. We're going to start the problem here. We've got the mass and the density, which means we're able to find the volume. Once we have the volume of our prism, we will be able to use that to help us find the height. Mass, density, volume is our triangle. Mass is at the top. We divide that through by 1.2. We do not divide by decimals. So I'm going to times this through by 10 so that I can divide by 12. I'm going to put that in my bus shelter so that I can get my final answer. So the volume is 180. The formula sheet has the volume of a prism on it. So you go and check your formula sheet and it tells you that it is the area of the cross section, which we've highlighted here, times by the length. Now the area of the cross section is a trapezium. That also is on the formula sheet. It is given as a half A plus B times the height. So my volume is the area of the cross section times by the length, which is times by 12 in this case. But we can also get some of these numbers in as well. So A and B are our parallel sides. We times that through by the length, that equals our volume of 180. Here we've got 10. If we halve 10, we've got 5. So we've got 5h times by 12. 5 times 12 is 60. So I've got 60h equaling 180. And then I just divide through by my 60, and h is equal to 3. Okay, so this question, we've got a water tank. It's empty, and Penny is going to put 18 litres in. We're being asked to estimate the amount of water in the tank as a percentage of the total capacity. Now, we saw this earlier. If you're being asked to represent something as a percentage, you want to think, I need a fraction first. So that's a good thing to clock early on. Another really important thing to clock immediately is your estimate, because if you don't see that, you're likely to start trying to solve this as accurately as you can, and that's not what they're asking. If they're asking us to estimate, then we're going to round those numbers to one significant figure, which will give us 40 and 60. The formula sheet gives us the information we need for finding the volume of a cylinder. So you must go and check that formula sheet. The volume is pi r squared times by the height or the length, either way. You've got your cross section, which is exactly what we saw before here, and then you've got the height or the length. So now we're going to substitute in our numbers. We will be using 3 for pi because pi is 3.14, on and on it goes. So rounded, it would be 3. We're going to times that by our radius, which is 20, and that's squared, so we'll times it by 20 again. And then the height is 60. So we just do this steadily in stages. 20 times 20 would be 400. If I times in the 3 at this stage, it will give me 1200, and then times in the 60, 6 12s are 72. So we've got 72,000 centimeters cubed. That is my volume. However, my question is telling me that Penny is putting 18 liters into the tank. And the word capacity here is also referring to the amount of liquid a 3D shape can hold. So I'm not in the right units at the moment. To be able to continue with this question, I need the knowledge that 1 litre is equal to 1,000 centimetres cubed. Without it, I'm probably going to be stuck at this stage. So I've got 72,000 centimetres cubed. If I divide it through by 1,000, I'll get my litres, which is 72. I'm now at the position where I can put my fraction together. She puts 18 out of a total 72. The tank will hold 72 litres, but she's only put 18 in. Now I need to write that as a percentage, which means I need to multiply it through by 100. However, I feel this particular question might be easier if I do a little bit of cancelling first. If I half them, I'll end up with 9 over 36. And now I recognise that 9 and 36 are both in the 9 times table. So if I divide through by 9, I will get 1 over 4. A quarter is 25%. Okay, this question is asking us to write an error interval. Best way to do this is to write the number line that fits with the question. Our question is about 1 decimal place, so it will be a 1 decimal place number line. Do either side of the number we've been given, and then your answers are slap bang in the middle. So 47.75 and 47.85. Okay, we're being asked to expand and simplify. Again, there are lots of different methods out there. I'm going to use crab's claw for this one. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times minus 5 is minus 10x plus 3x. And then 3 times minus 5 is minus 15. Really common to go wrong here. A lot of people will do 3 take 5 and write minus 2. So just be careful to keep timesing. The middle will always come together to give a final answer of 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. And then we're factorising, which is the opposite. We're going to put this quadratic back into the 2 brackets it originally came from. So we're going to pop our brackets down, get our x's in, and then we're going to think about the 12. What multiplies to make 12? Well, 2 and 6. 2 and 6, if I was to add them, would get me an 8. If I was to find the difference, I would get a 4. I'm going over to the middle to see what I need. I don't need an 8 or a 4. I want to make a positive 1. So that would not be the correct combination. 3 and 4 has a difference of 1, so that will create a positive 1. In order to get a positive 1, I would have to do 4 take 3. So it's positive 4 take 3. And that is the answer that we pop on our dotted line.